Where do you find God? Almost sounds like a loaded question, doesn't it? I mean, if God was someone you could find, wouldn't everyone be out searching? Well, rather than looking for something elusive, like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I reckon it's more about learning to recognise the way God is already present to us in our everyday lives. I'm Lizzie Oakes, and this is Where Do You Find God? My guest on the podcast today is Maori Evangelist Keri-Ann Hokianga. Kia ora and welcome. Good to see you again, my friend.
Tēnā koe, sister.
You just said to me off air, do you remember how we met? And it was a funny story of bumping into each other at a conference. I think it was a women's conference. Something a bit fiery.
It was good.
And we were in the bathroom. And then, what do you know? You ended up in my studio and you're back again. So really good to see you. But that was a very brief introduction. I would like you to introduce yourself in your own words. Thanks. Keri-Ann.
Tēnā koe. Hutia te rito o te hara ke kaia te koma ko e ko ki mai ki aha hea a te mea nui te mea nui o tēnei a maku e ki atu kia koe he tangata he tangata. Ki te taha o tōku pāpā no Manukau te tairawhiti ahau, ko Hokianga te ingoa whānau. Ki te taha o tōku māma a tāhua no Pamapuri a Kaitaia ahau, ko Keri-Ann Hokianga tōku ingoa. And sister, I know you said in a few words to introduce myself, and I went against the grain and I sang. And that is a whakatauki that speaks about what is the most important thing in this world. It is people, it is people, it is people. And I chose that particular whakatauki, one, because I like the tune, two, because it speaks into the work that God has called me into as a Maori evangelist.
Love it. I love the way you introduced yourself. That's really beautiful. Many moons ago, you actually used to work in the corporate sector, didn't you? And then you're doing something really quite different. That must have been an interesting transition, I would imagine.
Yes, one where I just picture me scraping my nails across a door, trying to hang on to the financial security that the corporate world offered me to come into a space that, and I'm going to call him out, Dr. Lyndon Drake called me into and challenged me. But this is the life of a Christian.
Yes.
We are called into challenge. And he said, we can offer you more work, less money, and no thanks. So hence that picture I've given, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
How long have you been on this particular path?
Next year, Feb the 5th, it would be 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
5 years.
So Keri-Ann, in Acts chapter 17, verse 27, it says, God intended that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. So my question for you is, where do you find God?
Well, I've been blessed to be brought up in a Christian home. And so part of my upbringing was my parents not asking me to go to church. It was, you will go. And if you don't like that rule, well, then you can go and find yourself a home to live on your own. And I turned to my mum at that time when she said that. I was like, but I'm only 12. But part of where I found God is the whānau that have surrounded me. Also part of my story is my encounter with the Lord at the age of 19. And I thought that was it.
Yeah.
You know, and nobody can tell me it wasn't God, because I tested him and I questioned him, because that's just who I am. I like to figure out, hey, Lord, I don't want to follow you because I'm 4th generation Christian in my Maori family, but what have you done for me? And I had a real encounter at the age of 19. And I thought that was enough in terms of how I found God, until I realised God is available for me to encounter every day through Scripture, through His Word, where He reveals Himself to me fresh and new every morning and every evening that I do pick up His Word, and through prayer. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And how do you find Him in prayer and in Scripture, but how do you find Him in this work that you're doing now?
Oh, gosh, where to start? So many places we can go with this. In all honesty, my role was formed because of research that has been done from the 2018 census forms within the Manukau region, and the statistics from that research showed a huge decline in attendance from Māori and engagement from Māori to Christian faith. And so that calls for a response, And in all honesty, I never thought that God would use someone like me. When Dr. Lyndon Drake called me from the corporate space into this role as an evangelist. And so where I found God in one aspect is that He spoke to me through non-Christian people.
Love that.
Cool, eh?
Really cool.
But tricky too. Thank God, how dare He set me up like that? Non-Christian, non-Māori, but also Māori people within that corporate space, hearing of my dilemma, whether to take up this offer from the corporate space, which was a promotion for more work, but also more money.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Of course.
Great. Sounds great. Then this offer from the church, more work, less money. No thanks. But that God would honour me in more ways than I could imagine. And so I found the Lord in spaces with my friends from that corporate space who encouraged me, hey, look, you would be able to bless so many others if you choose the pathway of the church.
So this was your corporate friends who weren't Christians saying this would be a good fit for you.
Yeah, and with tears in their eyes, sister. So I thought, oh man, God, you're so tricky. Man, you won.
You won.
And after a year, I said yes.
Yeah.
And so I constantly find God in this line of work when I step outside of the four walls of the church. Not only focus, the four walls of the church are important, of course. In this light, I'm only one part of the body of the church, but because there is a need for people in the community to hear of how God is in Acts able to walk with us, not just on a Sunday, not only because I whakapapa, I connect to a family of faith, but in your everyday life, in your mess too, in your challenges. So that's how I see God in this line of work when I step out onto marae, where the gospel is contested, and I love a little bit of a scrap, sister. Let's go. Not physically, but maybe with debates and offering a different perspective.
Yeah.
Also going into prison space or the workspace, going back into the corporate space. It's plenty of spaces.
Yeah, tell me about finding God in the prison space.
I went there just before lockdown, and 22 Maori women had asked for karakia, and I walked into that space and I was given 5 minutes to speak by two people that were leading in that area, and me in my cheeky little way said, I only need 3 minutes. And so I shared a karakia that has been passed down for centuries, but from my great-grandfather to his son, my mum, and then to me, the collect for purity. And I shared that in Te Reo Māori with these women, and I sang it to them, I roto i Te Reo Māori, and I watch the Lord break down the walls from these beautiful women. And what did that look like? The walls coming down, they sat and had cup of tea with me. And I said to them, let me make your cup of tea. And these women cried and said, what? We should be making your cup of tea. It should be the other way around. And I said to them, no, this collar, because for the listeners, I wear a collar, I'm an ordained priest. I told them, this collar calls me to serve. Christ says, I came to serve, not to be served. And so I want to embody that. And I watch as these women share their stories, their stories with me. They didn't have to, but because of whanaungatanga, relationship building, trust came into play, hence the walls coming down. And these women in the prison said to me, can you go get my kids? They belong to the streets. They belong to the gangs. They need to hear about this prayer that you've given to us that speaks about succession, passing down of good things. So that's how I've seen God move in the prison.
That's so beautiful.
Me,
you're talking there a little bit about God being sneaky and sort of cheeky, and yet I see some of that in your nature, and I see some. We don't really know each other very well, but
he speaks my language.
Yeah, he speaks your language, and God's a nonconformist, right? And I think you are too.
Yeah.
So tell me about that connection to God, of not being afraid to go into different spaces and flip things upside down, perhaps social norms and stuff, and just being true to who you are and who God made you to be.
Oh, I've just seen the fruits of healing, in this, in that way of being, when used correctly, man.
Yeah.
Once upon a time I used it incorrectly.
I hear you.
But and I'm still a work in progress, but in terms of one aspect of going against the norm, in terms of evangelism, I think the church is used to saying, come here, come to us, come here. And we forget Christ came to us. Christ left his place of deity, his kingdom to come in order to, we know that he didn't come on a chariot of fire and, with gold and silver, but he came to be with us, Emmanuel, God with us. And so I take that as something to pivot when it comes to evangelism. Go to the people, go out, go and be the verb of what Christ calls us to love, to listen, to allow people to be seen. And I hope and pray that more of us would jump on board with that concept, because we've seen such beautiful healing and transformation in the lives of many, young and old, Maori and non-Maori.
Keri-Ann Hokianga, thank you so much for joining me today on Where Do You Find God?
Kia ora. Bless you.
If you'd like to listen again, tune into Star each Wednesday morning at 10:30, or listen and subscribe via your favourite podcast app and give us a review so others can find us.